So I take it you've seen the film,
I've seen it. Yes, I have.
and I'm curious to just hear viscerally, what is your reaction to kind of reliving some of this stuff and just seeing it all put together on film?
Well, Gabriella did a great job of assembling the story going back 40 years. And for me, it was kind of like a combination of a release of the demons and just happiness to see it all put out there for the consumption of hopefully millions of people. I think this is a story that everyone's ready to have told and to talk about. And I think the sea circus industry needs to shift somehow. And I think the movie's going to help make that happen.
Let's open it up. Who wants to be the brave first person to ask a question? All right, back row.
Jeff, do you know how many different SeaWorlds are there and about how many different whales are there actually in captivity in these facilities?
So we're going to try to get a mic up to people, but when we can't, I'll just repeat it. So the question is, do you know how many different SeaWorlds there are and how many types of whales and mammals are being held in captivity?
There are 3 SeaWorld parks: Orlando, Florida, San Antonio, Texas, and San Diego, California. There are 45 killer whales currently alive in captivity. There have been over 200 collected and put in captivity, so about 75% of the ones that have ever been collected or born are already dead. In captivity, they tend to live about 10 years on average if you average everything out, and in the wild, they live human lifespans. In regard to how many other dolphinariums and stuff have killer whales, there's probably about 10 facilities globally, including Laurel Parquet that you saw in the film, and they have 5 or 6 SeaWorld whales on a breeding loan there. So SeaWorld's making money by loaning the whales to Laurel Parquet.
Well, okay. Right up. He will start here. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that you think the SeaWorld industry needs to shift or change. So what do you envision that shift looking like then?
Yeah, I mean, SeaWorld has the financial resources and the pool space to become a facility that is maybe like a halfway house, something where an injured animal, not necessarily a killer whale, but any type of whale, could come in, get the veterinary care that it needs, and then be released back into the wild. The idea of a sea pen has been brought up as well, where SeaWorld, with its financial resources, could maybe there's a place in the San Juan Islands of Washington that people are talking about sending Lolita to, for example, because her mother and her family are still alive. So I think that becoming more of a rehab-based program instead of a sea circus, which is basically what we've got right now.
I saw one around here, right?
Are calves still caught in the wild, or are the ones that are being used in circuses now all bred in captivity?
So this, I'll just repeat, so in case the balcony didn't hear. So are they still capturing animals, or are they all just being bred inside of captivity?
Both. You might know the story of the whale Morgan that was found beached in 2010. She was brought in by the Dolphinarium Harderwijk in the Netherlands with the promise that she'd be rehabbed and released. Well, SeaWorld used its deep wallets and basically bought Morgan and then had her shipped to Laurel Parquet, where she lives right now. So that could be deemed a wild capture. But also, we just learned recently that countries like Russia are just now kind of gearing up to start collecting wild killer whales again in the wild. So that's kind of disheartening. What I tend to think is going to happen is that whales that are currently in captivity, and the reason why SeaWorld is breeding so many of them, because eventually in Europe and North America, the practice of keeping killer whales in captivity is going to become so unpalatable. I think that Blackstone, who owns SeaWorld, is simply going to shift their business model to places like China, Russia, Dubai, and the Middle East, because those countries have even less information than we do and less human rights. When you boil this whole argument down, it really becomes an issue of justice and civil rights. In the 19th century, for example, civil rights movement was all about slavery, and then it went on to women's rights, and now there's a fight for the rights for people to have, marital equality. And I think the future is going to be led by people like Steve Wise. He's an attorney for the Non-Human Rights Project. And what he says is that these animals have earned non-human personhood status, which is a legal definition. They have culture, they grieve their young, they use language and tools, they're self-aware. By all definitions of what personhood is, these animals seem to have achieved that status, and they need protections under the law, because as it is now, SeaWorld basically just treats them as property. And as much as they say that they care for the animals, they just, breed them and ship them around wherever they want with no regard to their social structure, and just in an attempt to fill up their pools so they can sell more tickets at the turnstile. So it's a pretty sad state of affairs, but I'm hoping, a lot of us are hoping, that Steve Wise can be successful in a U.S. common law court and fight for the rights of a particular animal, not necessarily a killer whale. It could be an ape, it could be a dolphin, it could be a chimpanzee, who knows? But right now they're doing that research, and this is common. This has been over the course of the last 20 years, and from what we've been told, that case will be filed in a U.S. state in 2013. So we're excited to see how this kind of plays out.
Okay. Okay. Right up here for now. Try to pass this down a little bit.
Hi.
Hi.
What would you say should be done with Tilikum now?
Yeah, it's a good question. Unfortunately, Tilikum is chronically sick. He's lost almost all the teeth in his jaw. If you look carefully at some of the footage, or on the internet, Google, or go to our website, Voice of the, or whatever resource you want to go to, if you take a look at his lower jaw, he's lost all the teeth there. Most of the whales at SeaWorld break their teeth on the steel bars that separate them for training sessions and shows. These segregation gates have horizontal steel bars, and when the whales are kind of going back and forth at each other, maybe because they're not from the same family unit, they break their teeth off. And what the vets do is they come in with a drill and do what's basically a root canal procedure and bore out the pulp of the tooth, and that requires 3 times a day flushing with a betadine solution that they use a water pick to get all of the stuck fish that gets caught in those teeth. So Tilikum is a poor candidate for release, even though I would love to see him retire to a sea pen, maybe in the San Juan Islands, and I would support that. There's a lot of problematic issues with it. One of them is you're taking an animal, an Icelandic animal that has lived with a bunch of other animals, and then you could reintroduce an animal that could potentially be carrying a viral or bacterial infection that could decimate a native population. So there's a lot of barriers to just releasing these animals, although in theory I would love for it to happen. Personally, I think Lolita and Morgan are the 2 best and only candidates for a possible release.
We had Samantha with us here on Friday.
Sure.
And she said a couple things. I may be getting this, slightly off. These are estimates, but she mentioned that SeaWorld was bringing in something like $2 billion a year. 1, and 2, that their audiences have actually increased, which was a staggering fact. So I'm curious to know, they've got a lot at stake, clearly, and what's their reaction been, if any, to the movie, and what are they doing to kind of suppress you guys and you're getting out there to get the word out?
Yeah, true. SeaWorld has done very little. I think they kind of just want us to go away. I think that's their strategy. I think they are making enough money, even without the trainers being in the water, that they're just going to ignore us and use their giant public relations arm to just get, force their way through. They're currently appealing the OSHA verdict that has pulled trainers from the water, so that's an ongoing legal battle that's happening right now. As I said earlier, I think if their business model has to shift and it becomes unaffordable, say maybe due to high insurance costs, they're going to ship these whales to places that I already mentioned.
Anybody up in the balcony? You guys paid the same price. I don't want you to get slighted. No. What? It did? Oh, man. Loud. Okay. In the blue here?
Pretty simple question. What are you doing now, Jeff?
What do I do, like, professionally? I'm a medical doctor now. I see patients at a spinal clinic, and I also have hospital privileges in a hospital in Central Washington. So that's what I do for a day job.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your passion and being interviewed for this and being here today.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, is there any way that would be acceptable to you that's even advisable that we can interact and observe whales in some form, or other animals in some form of captivity, whether it's a 1 square mile pool where visitors go in submersibles and we can get up close, learn about the animals,
Yeah.
or perhaps using our technology, we have an automated mechanical whale that joins other whales in a pod. If you saw the movie Winged Migration, you know, they had a camera that would lead the flock of geese and shot them that way. Is there any way humans can interact to learn more about it, or is it simply something that is unacceptable to you as a marine biologist?
No, I think those are great ideas. I know personally, living in Washington State, I have access to the southern resident community of animals every summer when they come in to have their superpod congregations. I don't know. You guys are pretty close by. You could just pop in or see the northern resident animals. You know, right off the coast of BC. I think whale watching is a concern due to the number of boats, but I think it's a better option than allowing for the sea circus to continue in its current form. I do think that technology can play a huge role. SeaWorld could bring in rehab whales, use Shamu Stadium with the combination of the Jumbotron and show videos. They could get involved with, you know, the salmon populations in Washington and Canada and Alaska that are becoming decimated due to fish farming problems and PCBs and stuff like that. So yeah, technology, animatronics, Pixar, you name it. I think there's a lot of ways that people can learn about these animals, and if they want to have a firsthand experience, the animals come in predictably every year from about May till October, with July being the highest statistical month for sightings. You know, just go offshore on a kayak. I've done that plenty of times, or on a whale watching boat, and it'll blow you away.
We've got time for 2 more. Okay, over. All right, far from me, so you got to be loud.
Do you think there's a difference between keeping orcas in captivity and belugas and dolphins?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Uh,
Let me qualify that. What I see is that separates orcas from belugas or bottlenose dolphins or whatever species of dolphin is one of them is just a huge size differential. I mean, Tilikum lives in a facility that has 7 pools. Only 2 of the pools that he lives in are deeper than he is long. So you could imagine how restrictive that is for him just getting along. That's one of the reasons why he gets picked on by the much more agile females, because he's basically stuck and it's hard for him to turn. It's pretty confining space. But as you know, all the ex-trainers in the film, we were kind of lured into the dream of what we thought SeaWorld was, and then over time realized that it's probably not a good idea to keep any free-ranging animal in captivity, including dolphins, including polar bears, including beluga whales. You know, the Georgia Aquarium right now is trying to import 18 beluga whales that were wild caught off of Russia, and this would be something that hasn't happened since 1993 if the U.S. government allows for this import to happen. And by the way, they're not doing it just for themselves. They're doing it on behalf of SeaWorld and the Shed Aquarium and the Mystic Aquarium. And it's basically just a way to launder these animals into the country. And I think it's a bad idea, and I hope that NOAA steps up and says no, but I don't have any confidence that they will.
Let's just say anyone who's interested, let's go see our sites. Don't want to wait. Jeff, we got limited time, and we gotta finish. So
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Sure. Last question. Oh, up there, up in the balcony.
I'm sorry if this actually doesn't have anything to do with the film, but I'm just really curious if you had the opportunity, or if you did have the opportunity, did you ever swim with orcas in the wild?
So if we didn't hear it down here, have you ever or would you ever swim with orcas in the wild?
No, I would not. Not because I'm like intrinsically scared of them. I just don't want to be the first person that they decide to have an experiment with. You know, they're so free thinking and so smart. You know, it's like Dr. Duffus says in the film, you know, always got to keep one foot on the floor. It's like the pool hall rules, you know, that's a great way to look at it. I've been in kayaks with orcas. I've been in a rowboat with orcas. I've been in a lot of whale watching boats, but I have Dr. Ingrid Visser, who's a friend of mine. She gets in the water with these animals all the time down in New Zealand. I respect that. I don't have any interest in being the first experimental guy that gets flipped around by a killer whale. No.
So thanks. Thanks for here. Before we go, maybe what do you if people feel inspired to do something after seeing the film, what do you suggest is the best course of action for everyone here?
Okay, me and the other trainers in the film have a website. It's called Voice of the Orcas. Please come visit the website, Voice of the Orcas. And we've got a lot of links for other websites and places to go. We've got videos to link up to. If people feel compelled to do that, we're not pushing an activist agenda here. We're just trying to get information out so we can all work together and be on the same page.
All right, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Means a lot.
You're welcome.
I will let everyone know here, the film has a theatrical release in the States in the next couple weeks, and it will be released in this theater. I don't know the date specifically, but I think it's the first week of August. So tell your August 2nd. So tell your to come out and see it. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks everyone for coming.
All right.
We'll see you again.
Thank you.